So for my September Great Film Throwback Day, we're going to talk about one of the most well-known films from the golden age of cinema in 1963, Joseph Mankiewicz's directed Cleopatra, starring Richard Burton, the great Elizabeth Taylor, Rex Harrison, and Roddy McDowall, and even a very young Martin Landau. So this was a movie that I have heard about for so many years. People have actually called it one of the most epic films of all time. It is also known as one of the most expensive movies for all time. Even with inflation, it is still known as one of the most expensive. And I knew that this was one of those movies that I had to see in order to call myself the great film appreciator, and now I have finally sat through all 4 hours of this movie. So what can I say about this epic classic? Well, I think everywhere that I have looked in terms of how this movie has been described, it's the sprawling epic romance between Mark Antony and Cleopatra. And that is definitely the truth. It is definitely sprawling, it is definitely epic, and it is definitely a movie about romance. But one of the few things that I found that was interesting was, while I was getting ready to watch it, I wanted to see what some people were saying in terms of critique. And I had looked at some of the more popular sites, even IMDb, and this movie was not getting the praise that I thought that a movie that was just held in such high regard was getting. It was getting somewhere in the middle. So I said, let me judge it for myself. Well, I'm not going to disagree. There are definitely some highlights in this film, but this movie is far from perfect. If there's anything that I could say that is incredible about this film, it is the production value. The sets, the makeup, the costumes, the special effects. For the time that it was in the 1960s, there is definitely amazingness found within these. Elizabeth Taylor went through God knows how many costume changes, and every single time she looked stunning. The grand scheme of Rome and Egypt, absolutely beautiful. The spectacular war scenes were absolutely incredible. For 1963, I am amazed that they managed to get something like that done, and almost as flawless as they could possibly make it. Even the epic battle sequences that took place on the open seas. The acting is absolutely wonderful, especially the main cast is definitely a sight to behold. Now, I recently saw Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor in The Comedians, and I really didn't care much for them in that film, but in Cleopatra, holy cow, they were spectacular. The chemistry between the two of them, and every single kind of emotion that came out of Elizabeth Taylor was true and believable. I didn't think that she was hamming it up or overacting. She was absolutely fantastic, and Richard Burton was wonderful too. But the person who truly stands out in this film for me is Roddy McDowall. He doesn't have much of a role at the beginning, but towards the end of the film, when he is the new Caesar, he is brutal, he is terrifying, and he's not this big muscular guy. He looks like he's practically skin and bones, especially when you compare him to Julius Caesar, who is played by Rex Harrison. This guy was just so powerful when he was on screen. You feared him. You knew that he was going to be a brutal dictator. And the way that Cleopatra throughout the entire film was able to sway powerful men, she couldn't even get Octavius, played by Roddy McDowall, to budge. And that was one of the few things that I really was impressed by when it comes to Roddy McDowall. There was even a portion of the story that was a take on the famous Shakespeare play, Tragedy of Julius Caesar. And even though it wasn't a major part of the film, it was a small portion of the film, you saw those moments that you remember in the play unfold, and even though it is not said, you don't really see the dialogue, you do in fact see the famous words "et tu, Brute," mouthed out of Rex Harrison as Julius Caesar, and I thought that that was really done in well and good taste. But this movie is not perfect, because while I've said so many great things about this film, the one thing that I really didn't care for was the story, because as I said, it is a sprawling epic romance, and my god, this thing, Sprawls. It is long. It is exhausting. This is more exhausting than Batman v Superman, but more tolerable than Dances with Wolves. I am definitely going to say that, and Cleopatra being an extra hour, that says a great deal. But there were points in time where I was very bored, there were points in time where I actually caught myself falling asleep, yet I still managed to understand everything that was going on, because if I may have missed a good 2 to 5 minutes because I unfortunately had dozed off, I said to myself, I don't need to rewind this, I don't need to see what's going on. So I really do feel like I've seen all 4 hours of this movie, and if you disagree, just put your comments in the box below. But I will say that I am so glad that I have finally seen this incredible epic film that everybody talks about, all 4 hours of it, because now I never have to see it again, thank goodness. It is not a movie I want to see again, nor is it a movie that I want to get on DVD, but I will definitely say that if you are like me and you want to be known as a true film appreciator, this is one of those movies that you kind of need to see before you die, and you'll be happy that you did, just once, if anything. I'm giving Cleopatra 2.5 stars out of 4. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. Please leave your comments in the box below, and let's discuss Cleopatra, and I will see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.